I am thrilled that you are here today, not because I feel that I have some sort of amazing wisdom within myself to give you, but I am here to really talk about you. That's what's really exciting to me, is that I'm not here to tell you my story or any of that. Although my story, it has moments of significance, but really my story doesn't matter. What I am here to help you unfold for yourself is your own story. And I made this decision for myself, like Matt mentioned, being a coach for 8 years. It didn't always start out wonderful. It didn't start out beautiful and wonderful. And so I want to ask you if you can put something in the chat for me. I'm going to ask you a significant question. I wrote it down. Are you ready? Well, first of all, can you trust the process? If I asked you to commit to me, can you trust the process? And can you allow yourself for 2 days, just 2 days, a couple of hours a day, to trust the process and believe on the other end of this, you're going to get what you want? Would you be willing to step into this arena with me today? And so I'm just going to ask you, listen, no village is going to burn down. No child is going to be thrown in the river. You're not going to lose an arm or a leg. I'm just asking you, can you trust the process and really observe who you are over these next 2 days? I don't want you observing me. I want you to observe yourself. So if you can, put in the chat, say, I'm ready to trust the process. You can put yes or, trust the process, whichever you want to do. And then what I would really like for you to do, good, we have people saying I can trust the process. Good, I love it. I don't normally like to really read the bottom quote or when people are doing it, but I am this time. I'm going to learn how to do this in a good way. So yes, I can trust the process. Love it, love it, love it. Here is, if you don't know how to do it, it's just go to the chat and you can put it in. But I would love for you to participate. Come all in. I'm giving you opportunities to come all in. And some of you may have a resistant feeling. That probably shows up in lots of areas of your life. What would happen if you could observe yourself right now while you're going through this? What am I doing? It's a simple thing. Go in and put, yes, I trust the process. I'm going to trust. That's such a simple thing. But if you have this feeling at the very beginning, I'm a little bit resistant to this. Are they asking me to commit to something? You're not committing to me. You're committing to yourself. I really want to make this clear. I know it seems kind of silly and tedious, but it's trust the process. The other thing I want to know, I would love for you to put in is, because this can go one of two ways. I think I'm going to go my way, but I'm going to go one of two ways. Who here wants fluff for the next 2 days? Or who wants the truth, even if it's uncomfortable? Because let me tell you, this is a free event. I mean, most people expect fluff, right? But who would like to have the truth revealed? Do you want fluff or truth? Which one do you want to pay attention to while you're on here? Do you want to pay attention to truth, or do you want to pay attention to the fluff? Because let me tell you, I always feel that I bring the truth to things. And I feel, and truth is a relative thing. I know some of you logical people, I would be doing the same thing. Well, truth is relative. But what I want to talk about is we're doing a study of self. We're not doing a study of me. I want to take you through a process of studying yourself. You see, I realized something as a coach over the last 8-9 years is that there is this big difference between information and transformation. How many of you are so freaking tired of information? And how many of you are seeking really transformation? Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to take 2 hours out of my day every day, I don't want fluff. So I want to respect your time because I want my time respected as well. I want to be able to speak truth. I don't want to have people upset, but I want to speak truth and I want to talk about transformation. Now, I want to start out with this idea. If we're starting the beginning of the year, I love the start of the beginning of the year. I'm not here to rah goals or anything like that. That's not what I'm here to do. But I love the feeling of a turnover of something. when you step into a new door, when you step into a new chapter of your life. And for some people, they use the idea of the turn of the year as a conditioning of the mind that I'm going to turn over something new in my life. Some people wait for an entire year. And I started really understanding a really beautiful step called bless and release. Some of you may have joined us in December, and I talked about the power of bless and release. And believe it or not, I've really opened up myself to really study black holes. And what is it in black holes, and why are we so fascinated by them? And what are black holes? I really didn't even know about it. It sounded, too sciencey for me, But really, I love the study of energy. I love the study of energy in our thoughts, in the science of the mind. That's what I love really looking at and understanding. And I understand that when things go into the black hole, they disappear. And so I look at this every time I walk through something. It's so important to understand what I will leave behind in order to gain something new. That's transformation. Most people will take the information and they keep their old idea and they don't walk into the new. And what happens is that when you keep who you are and you keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, do you know what happens? You overcapacitate. People get overcapacitated. They feel overwhelmed. You'll start hearing this word, overwhelmed, overcapacitated. And I realize that sometimes when we're transforming, we're gaining some new awarenesses. And it's another step is really important, which is the release of some old ideas. And this part of us, believe it or not, keeps us young. It keeps us engaged in life. It keeps us soaring. And what happens is that it's a feeling. It's more of a feeling, and you'll recognize the feeling in yourself. And so I'm going to tell you what I believe has happened over the last few years. And we had a significant moment. And I think we're all still trying to make sense of, lockdown. I think we're all still trying to make sense of it. But I will tell you, there was a blessing in disguise about it. People slowed down and they were stuck with feelings. Some people didn't know how to process those feelings. They had never been faced with what happened on a global level. Some people were very afraid of it, very fearful of it. What does this mean? The end of the world. And now we starting to see videos, and we're starting to see movies made about the end of the world and something that's going to destroy us or kill us. And that can bring a lot of angst in your life. Boy, we're getting deep right off the hop. Do you feel that? Right off the hop, we're talking about some things of how we process circumstances in our life. I hear people a lot of times want to talk about, I want this new idea in my life. Here's the buzzword right now. I want to manifest in my life. You hear people, manifestation. I'm going to teach you the art of manifestation. Listen, you use manifestation every single day of your life. Not being aware of it is where the angst comes in, but you're manifesting every day. You're creating a reality that makes sense to you, but it's an illusion of your mind. It's an old identity of yourself, but you're constantly manifesting. Manifesting, I'm going to give you the short, simple trick for what manifesting it is manifesting means to make plain view. That's the definition of manifesting. To make plain view. To take an idea in the ethereal, in vibration, whatever energy you want to do, intellectualize it, and then to bring it into form, into the density of form. Like my desk. My desk is a density in form, in the 3D world. To bring ideas into the 3D world and has the density of it. We had a density a while ago that the fastest way to get a letter from me in British Columbia to Australia was the Pony Express. There was a time that technology was relevant. And actually, that technology was a breakthrough of finding order to pick up mail on a horse and bring it all the way down, to get on a boat, to get to Australia. At one time, that technology was relevant. How many of you would want to use the Pony Express today? Relative to what, let's say, Canada Mail or, the US Postal Service, according to those today, that's almost like the Pony Express of our time, to look at that when I was growing up, the idea of that. And now we've moved into the internet, and now we have emails, and with a push of a button, I can have something go out at any moment. I can gather people here at this moment, and I can talk about it, and instantaneously, I don't even have to wait for you to check your email. You can come here, and we have people all over the world. Ireland, New Zealand. I think we have people in, I'm not really sure everywhere, but I know we have people all over the world. Matt, don't laugh at me. I don't have time to process everything. But we have people, Africa, that was the one I was thinking of. But we have people all over the world. And instantaneously, I can bring everyone here and have a message. And I don't have to wait for you to open up an email. Think about the technologies of ourselves. But if I stayed in the idea of, no, the Pony Express, it works, it's reliable, that's the way we're going to do it. Some of us are living in energy like that we gained from our families. And we're in a time and an age where things that have been passed down to us no longer work or equip us for the technologies of today, the issues of today. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say that some of the corporations that have dominated our world did a very, very fine job for us to work cooperatively together. But when COVID happened, many of our livelihoods were challenged. Many of the things we relied on were challenged. Can I just tell you, when COVID happened, I want to tell you, in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I live in the interior of British Columbia, but there was a mudslide. I know it probably didn't make world news, but I'm just going to tell you that even during COVID, we had a mudslide and we couldn't even get groceries here. And that was a bit wild, if you think about it. It was a bit wild that we had this. Not only on top of that, we had this and this and this. Some people, their bank accounts got messed up. Like it made you rethink and say, do I really want to rely on this? Some people even said, you know what? I don't want to work for a corporation anymore. Or a corporation has told you, we're not relevant during this time. Some people got laid off. Some people lost their jobs. Some things happened. And now you really realize, wow, I've been relying on a company to give me my income. See, your money doesn't come from the corporation or the company that you work from. Your food does not come from Vancouver, British Columbia. This is a thought that really is challenging me as we're moving into these new technologies. Is there another way for me to do it? And some of the things, most people left or were asked to leave corporations, and now they want to become coaches. Or they're building a new business, maybe not coaching, but some sort of gift that they want to get information about themselves, and they want to help other people with it. Every person I talk to, can I just tell you, the first thing they'll say to me when I ask them, what do you want? What would you love to see right now? And you know what they'll say to me? 10 out of 10. I want to help people. What I hear them say is, I suffer. I found a way to not suffer, and I would love to help other people not suffer. That's really the conversation that's happening. And what I recognize is that when I get into a feeling with them and I began to say, tell me about that. I don't feel threatened in my coaching because somebody comes to me and says they want to coach. I don't feel threatened by that. What I hear is their desire for more. That's what I hear. I hear that idea. And what I do is I try and figure out in that moment, where is the density in them, the feeling of that, so that I can help them turn it into manifesting, to make plain the idea that they have in their mind. How can I help them go through these stages of an idea to a logic to bringing it into the 3D world in the density of it? And most people, believe it or not, want to keep manipulating the density of it. And they keep moving the density and they don't realize their idea is stuck in corporate ideas where there's a lot of cooperation. And when you're out on your own, that cooperation is not there. When you're on your own, you don't got a lot of cooperation. You got to figure it out with self. And so as you start figuring things out with self, do you know what starts playing on your mind? I must not be smart enough. I can't make this work. How come I could work for a company and I made money and now I can't make money for myself, or I can't create what I want to create on my own? It just seems like roadblock after roadblock. And pretty soon what can happen is you can become a critic. Well, that won't work because of this and this and this. And pretty soon you become critical in the world because you see other people gaining and you're not. And it's really easy to become critical. And in fact, your logical mind can criticize the shit out of it. And now you're in an energy. Does that make sense? Is this resonating with anyone? Can you feel it in yourself where I want to move forward and I'm not able to, and I'm not sure why? I'm not blaming corporations. I'm not blaming all that. But what I'm saying is that there are things that are undiscovered about us. And so as we start growing and as we start developing, we've got to let go of old ideas to start gaining some new ones. And most of us don't recognize the moment I must let go. Everyone wants to achieve their goal. How many of you want to achieve your goal or want to achieve the life that you want to do? Everyone does. But we're not in the habit of receivership of the idea because we're not in the habit of letting go of something else. You see, they don't know what happens when something goes into the black hole. They don't know where it goes. That's really the fear, isn't it? Where does it go? Where will it take me? Well, this is the power of the science of the mind, is that we can choose our destiny in it. We can do that. We don't have to stay on the path that we've always known. Do you know when you're going through this of figuring things out, do you know what shows up when you're faced with truth and it's challenging you? Do you know what happens? We get uncomfortable. Do you know what uncomfortable feels like? When you're faced with, I've always done it this way, and now it's taken away, and now I have to figure out something new. Do you know what happens when I know something and I don't know how to get there? There's an uncomfortableness. And most people don't like the feeling of uncomfortableness. Why? Because it was taken away from most of us. We got used to doing things a certain way, and so we don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. If I asked you, where in your body, I know this is going to sound kind of strange, but just play along with me, okay? Just trust the process. Do you know where uncomfortableness feels in your body? I know that's really specific, right? Where do I feel uncomfortable? I'm going to trigger some things in you to see if you can feel it in your body, if that's okay. Uncomfortableness may show up in loss. It may show up in disagreements. It may show up in failures. It may show up in helplessness. It may show up in embarrassment. What do I mean by embarrassment? Uncomfortableness. What are some of the words that you use when you get uncomfortable? I'll tell you one of mine. I'm not smart enough. They don't like me. I'm not doing a good job. It may even come up in some ideas of I'm jealous. Jealousy makes us very uncomfortable. Do you know what? I wish I would have started this out with rainbow hearts and unicorn farts and says, how many of you love? But until you know the opposite of it, we can't get there. Do you know what I mean? Do you know where uncomfortableness lives in your body? And do you know that that's an energy that you send out when you're attracting? And if you don't understand the thoughts that you think, then you don't understand the logic that you use in the present moment, and you don't understand how you're manifesting it in form, the density of form. How do you know if you're carrying around uncomfortableness in a negative way? I can tell you your results will always tell the truth. That was very uncomfortable for me when I first heard that thoughts in my mind manifest into physical form, not because of some outside situation, but because of the thoughts and feelings I have inside. I'm creating a reality of that in the world because of where I'm putting my attention. I use this often in my talks just to illustrate it, but I want you to look around your room, and do you see anything that's red? Look around your room. Do you see anything that's the color red? Were you thinking of red a few moments ago? No, but it always existed there. But your reality, your attention was not put on it. Doesn't matter that it was already there. But it wasn't until you were stimulated to look for it did you see it in the world. It's wild, isn't it? What are we stimulated toward right now? What do you see in the world? Do you see the world is going to hell in a handbasket? Do you see that there's problems everywhere? Do you see that? Is that what you put your attention on? Because I can tell you there's success going on in the world as well. That's one thing I know about the universe, is that there's opulent opportunity everywhere. Do you believe that there's opulent opportunity? This is what happens to people in crisis, is there's those that want to talk about the crisis, and there's those that say it's time to shift. And do you know the feeling when it shows up? When I get uncomfortable, I say, oh, it's time to shift. How many of you get stuck in the uncomfortable and you want to solve the uncomfortable? Can't be done. Can't be done. That's called working in the gap. And right now, when we have a suppression of where we want to go, that suppression causes us to start solving why I can't get what I want. And it's pointless. I really understood this when my mother passed away, and I was upset that she passed. And days and days and days on end, I stayed in that feeling that was never going to bring her back. But my ability to accept it and surrender is what helped me get through it. But sometimes our mind does not want to accept it, and we resist it. And some of us are living in a state of resistance, and it's so normal for us now. We don't know any other way, and we attract with that resistance. And we can't understand why it keeps going sideways for us. So then we solve that. Why does this keep going sideways? Let's solve that. Somebody comes into your life and says, well, you're depressed. You need to solve depression. Can I just tell you, you can't solve depression. You're caught in a loop where you keep thinking of things in a certain way. And the best way to do it is to say, what would I love? I know that sounds silly. Do you know the most feared emotion? I love this because Brene Brown did this study. The most feared emotion, guess what it is? It's kind of crazy when I tell you. It's actually joy. When I say that to people, they usually go, what? Well, from her research, she found that people love joy so much, but the feeling of not having it is so upsetting. They would rather not have joy. They would rather not experience it than to experience the loss of joy. Wow, that was powerful. So I want to go into some ideas of how do we solve this for ourselves then? Can we do that? We had to start off in the negative. We had a half an hour of it. Who's ready to go to the positive part of it, right? But we had to start with truth. We had to start with what I call a polarity. There's a beautiful natural law in the universe called the law of polarity. And this law, I'm just going to tell you this right now. I love studying the natural laws of the universe, especially when it comes to science of the mind. We are incredible beings if we can learn to put order for ourselves. Order is heaven's first law. First quote I ever heard that caught my attention was order is heaven's first law. And I know some of you here that study with me, it may be 2 weeks, it may be 1 month, it may be 3 years later, you're like, oh my gosh, order is heaven's first law. I'm not in order. What I realized is I've been following someone else's order and I finally found my own. I'm finally ready to let that go for me to be able to find my own order. And it is a light bulb moment when it happens. And it is thrilling. And you know what? I want to tell you about this place where you can get to, where you can embrace this feeling of, I want to call it ecstasy if I could, or this ethereal place, this utopia of ourselves. What would happen if you could live in that? Now, I'm not saying you're going to live there every moment of every day, but I'm going to tell you, you can tip the scale more to live that way than staying in the angst of things don't work out for me. First of all, we have to know in our body what it feels like to be uncomfortable. And then we want to feel in the body, what would it feel to have joy? For most people, joy is a really convoluted word. I don't even, it's one of those words people talk about, but I don't get it, like the word authentic. What does authentic even mean? What are some of the other words like peace? What does it even mean? What does it mean to be in love with something? I love pizza and I love my husband and I love my children. I love my car. I love plants. Like, what does the word love mean? And sometimes you can feel it in your body, the depths of what that is, and recognize it. And you can really get in harmony with other people that are talking about it. When I talk about I love pizza, it's going to be very different than a chef who talks about it and says, I've perfected pizza. I love it. Let me tell you, compared to him, relative to him, I like pizza. He loves pizza. It's a different, relative. So the point of polarity is, it is what it is. This is the definition of polarity. It is what it is. There is no meaning in it until I choose meaning. Because guess what? In the universe, the whole gamut exists. The whole gamut exists with the idea, the rainbow of it. All of it exists in the world. But one of the things I love about polarity is if me, Angie, if I see it over here, no more effort is required for me to see it over here. No more effort is required in my feelings. If I feel angry or upset about it, no more effort is required for me to not be upset and angry over it. It's a matter of a choice. It's a matter of a switching station within the brain that starts creating something. Now, what most of us do when we have a resistance or a struggle with something is we avoid it. Whenever there's something that we feel uncomfortable about, we avoid it. I want to talk to you about a TikTok that I saw today. I'm probably not going to do a very good description of it, but he talks about in the brain, there's a structure in the brain that they've done a lot of study about it lately. And I'm going to check more into it. I'm just talking off the top of my head of something I discovered just a day ago. But it's called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. I haven't really studied it that much. But what it talks about is that there is a part of our brain that really lights up when we do something that we don't want to do. Now, there's a difference. I'm not talking about doing something and adding more work to yourself. But what I'm saying is when you work towards something, you strengthen this part of your brain. You strengthen it. So when you have a resistant feeling about it and you begin to start to overcome it, you face it and you overcome it, you strengthen it. And do you know what they realized is that this shows up really big in athletes when they do something that they don't particularly enjoy with the result that they want to. There's a really great article that I love to talk to people about. I'll just give it to you in a nutshell, but it's called the I can't believe it just left my head.
Common denominator of success, is it?
Thank you. Oh, my word. Common denominator of success. I love this article. I've been studying it for a long time. I just had like a little brain go away. Common denominator of success. And I'm going to tell you one thing in this article that it talks about is that people who succeed and people who fail have one thing in common. People who succeed and people who fail have one thing in common. Do you know what that is? They both don't like to do it. It's unnatural to both, and they don't like to do it. So what would cause a person to succeed over a person who fails? You see, I've overcome a lot of failures to get where I'm at, not because I liked doing it. I didn't like doing it. The things that you're fearing, I had the same fear. Every great leader and philosopher will tell you that I have no more special equipment than you do. My ability to make $1 million, you have the same ability to make $1 million a year. And I'm going to tell you, money, you're going to find this out about me. Money doesn't mean money to me. Money is an exchange of energy. It's a service. It's an exchange of energy. And what I've really found is people who are afraid of money are afraid of their own power. Have you ever noticed how much people get uncomfortable when you talk about money? Money is an exchange of service. So every time somebody says to me, I want to help people, but I don't want to do it for money, you betray your own potential right there and your ability to attract and move energy. I can already feel some of you go, what? Yeah, money, the energetics of money. People do not understand it. Why? Because we all went and worked for corporations and they told us our value and we follow it, industry standards. What would you say if I told you that's nothing but bullshit? That's someone else's idea and you can create your own pathway to it and it's possible. You don't have to follow structures that I'm not somebody who's here to break up, how the world works, but I'm here to say we definitely can challenge it. And in fact, in our evolution, it is the fittest that survive. It's the fittest who challenge the status quo. And most of us, we haven't been challenging the status quo for a long time. We've been competing with one another, but we don't challenge the status quo individually. We're still caught up in what everyone else thinks. And we don't even know how to ask ourselves, what do I want in this moment? They were talking about this anterior mid-singular cortex in your mind that when you, and it's so funny because there's a big philosophy right now, when you do things that you don't like to do, it raises your cortisol level. We've heard a lot of that. But I can tell you this, I think we're misunderstanding it in a huge, huge way. The cave, I would love for you to write this down, the cave you fear to enter. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And what people do is they avoid entering the cave they fear. And that is what raises cortisol levels. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And it's when you don't go after the thing you want because it's uncomfortable, that's where you raise your cortisol level. When you go and you start putting order to it and you start going toward it, this is where your survival, your will takes over. And they're saying that people that do this live longer. When people do things that they enjoy doing, it actually causes you to never challenge yourself. And this is where the fittest the people who do not do it do not get fit. And this is where they will die and go away. And that's what happens to most of us with our dream, is we start going toward it and we get fearful, we get afraid of it, we get challenged by it, and we say, this can't be for me, it's bringing too much stress, and we go away, and then we dream about it, and we don't realize we're giving ourselves more stress. The stress of you going after something you want builds your will. It builds this survival of the fittest. And we have a lot of conveniences right now that we live in because of other people's gifts that have given to us. We live in that. And most of us don't know how to challenge ourselves to go beyond what we know right now. Because what you know right now will not help you. You've got to proceed out of it to the next level. You see, if you're here and you want to go here, the only reason that you can see here is because you're here. But being here does not allow you to go here. It allows you to see it. And once you see it, you can look down, and I can tell you there's spaces there that don't have answers for you right now in your world. So that's why when you look out and you say, when you enter the atmosphere of here's where I want to be, then this place opens up, this space opens up of, I don't know how to do it. And that brings fear to most of us. And that's the treasure that you need to seek, the fear. The cave you enter holds the treasure you seek. That's why when you say, I want to go here, and it's uncomfortable to be here, this is what's helping you grow. And this is the very thing that causes people to stop. It didn't turn out, I failed, I'm quitting, I don't like the feeling of it. And so you want and want and want and want, and that creates the hormonal disconnect in most of us, where we have all of this stuff that's happening in us. And I can tell you, we even get better at fullback justifying, my life is shit and I want to stay here in the shit and you don't understand my shit. It's like, you are right. I don't want to understand it because you are able to do it. That's the thing. We were all built that we're able to do it. Are we willing to do it? It's the development of the will. So what I want to do is I want to talk about how I began to notice and observe some things that I was doing as a unconscious competent. I had built this interior mid-singular cortex in some areas of my life, not everything, but in some. But I can tell you, if you can, how you show up in one thing is how you'll show up in another, if you can learn to harness that power. And so there were things that I started observing about myself. I started studying myself, and I was like, why is it over here I could do it, and over here I can't seem to do it? And what I realized is I have a plan of how I think this has to happen. And that technology no longer exists, but I keep forcing it. It's like we're all running around trying to find the Pony Express. When you have a resistive state in you, this is where you want to say, maybe it's time for me to change what I'm doing here. Maybe I've got to get out of the gap and I've got to get into the gain of the idea. See, this will never solve this. The thing is that most people have an intellectual idea about it, but they stay in the reality. Your results will always tell the truth of where your mind is and how you're thinking. You can tell me all day long, this is what I want, but knowing where you want to go and living it are two different things. And I will have people who can intellectually tell me all kinds of stuff, but don't know how to live it. And I will say, tell me your results, because your results always tell the truth. But people want to get in arguments that there's results aren't there because of this and this and this. Well, thank God you know that. Let's don't use that then. No, you don't understand. This is the way I've always done it. I do understand. This is a point of letting it go, of letting it die. Thank God you figured out that technology doesn't work for you, but you're in such a habit of doing it, you don't realize you're in that habit of doing it. So what would happen if you began to create for yourself a way to start attuning yourself to where you want to go and start putting order towards that? Do you know what? There's a period of time in our life where we have what I call, well, I don't call it. I was taught this idea. I like this idea called the S curve. Have you ever heard the S curve? Where it seems like nothing's happening, then you take off and you learn something, and then you're at the top of your game. And if we don't make a shift at this top of the gain, guess what happens? We start having diminishing returns. And so the top of the S curve is actually the bottom of the next S curve. Do you recognize when you're at the top and at the bottom? Do you recognize it? It's a shift of mindset. That's where polarity is so important to understand. If I'm beginning to see this, no more effort is required to shift my mind and see, this is the bottom of the next S curve. I'm at the top. I'm starting to have diminishing returns. This is a change mechanic. Do we understand the change mechanics in the mind, or do we just keep doing the habit of what we know? Because what we know won't get us there. If you spend any time with me, you'll find there's one phrase that I tend to respond to more often than not. When people say, I know, I will say to them, stop saying you know. If you know, you would already be there. So you don't know. Because when you say, I know, do you know what it puts you in? A resistive state. I know. I already know that. I've heard people say this over and over again. I want different results. They come on here. I've already heard that. I already know that. And so they stay in their shit pile. Boy, I'm really mouthy with the word shit. I normally don't say it all the time, but I'm super mouthy. I apologize up front. But people will stay in this tumultuous state because they know. And I'm saying, what you know won't work here. Start saying, I'm becoming aware. That one little shift opens you up. I'm becoming aware. Do you know where to feel that in your body? I'm becoming aware. So I'm going to tell you some of my energy centers. Now, I know that there's a philosophy out there, so I'm speaking about something ignorant towards a philosophy or a study out there. So I'm saying that up front. I grew up in the church. We didn't really talk about energy. So I never studied some disciplines that maybe some of you have studied. So I just want to say this right now. Some of you may go, wow, she's really ignorant about that. But I will tell you my results work the same whether I know that theory or philosophy. I live it. So I was what's called an unconscious competent. Do you know when I will tell you this, when I was in the ninth grade, did you hear that? The ninth grade, I was one of those people that learned how to play every woodwind and brass instrument in our school band. I can pick up a trombone, a tuba, trumpet, a French horn. I can pick up a flute, a piccolo, a bassoon, an oboe, a clarinet, a saxophone. I can pick them all up and play them. By the time I was in the ninth grade, I knew how to play them all. Not because I took lessons. I was interested. So I could play all the scales on them. I learned them all. My band teacher would say, hey, we need this in this section of the band. Angie, would you go ahead and pick up the instrument and go play? And I would. I had this great thing for music, and my mind was that way. I can't tell you why it was. I just had that. But if you asked me to go in and do algebra or math, forget it. But I could read timing, I could hear melodies, I could hear harmonies, I could hear vibration, but I didn't know the theory of things. And now I understand I am really quite mathematical. I'm very mathematical. I'm very scientific in the way that I think, but I avoided science because I was taught, that's not for girls. Oh, yes, I was. But we'll get over that. So let that go. It was just one idea that I was taught about myself that, that's not a good area for a girl to go into, science and music. Even music was one. But I had this very, very strong love of music. And I grew up in a church where playing music on Sunday with an instrument was not good. It was disrespectful to God. I only learned to sing a cappella music. Do you know what? I only learned to sing shape notes. Does anyone know what a shape note is in a hymn book? That's what I learned to sing. I learned to listen to harmonies. And so I had this love of music. I just had it. And I just learned so much about it. Well, the first time I went to college, they had a theory course, and you could clep out of it if you could take this thing. And so I knew I was good in music. I thought, I'll be one of those people that will clep right out of it. And I went to go take the test and I failed. And the music professor that gave me the scholarship was shocked. And he said, can you play me this scale? And so I did. I played the scale, and he said, can you write it out? No. I couldn't write out a scale. I didn't know the theory of a scale, but I could do it by rote. I knew how to do it. You could tell me any scale to play, and I know what a scale sounds like, but I didn't know how to write it. So I had to learn the theory of communication. And I went through 6 weeks and I got an A. And every time I was like, wow, that's what I've been afraid of in theory. That's so easy now that I get it. It's so easy. I'm going to tell you, it's the same thing with chakras. Can I just tell you, I don't know much about chakras, but I can tell you energy centers in myself that I've practiced as an unconscious competent. So why do I want to talk about chakras? I'm not really going to talk about chakras. I'm going to use my own picture. I believe you have your own picture. The philosophy of what a chakra is, somebody wrote it down, and that's a school of thought. But let me tell you, you can naturally build them in yourself. I didn't know about them, but I use them all the time. Didn't know it until somebody said it, and I went, wow. But I can tell you that I started noticing the feeling of support in my body. And I had a picture of support in my body. If I wanted to feel supported, do you know what feeling of support? Do you have a picture? We actually think in pictures. Did you know that? Do you have a picture of support? So that if you're in a moment and you aren't feeling supported, you can go there and put that feeling in your body, just like that. Can I tell you what mine is? I want you to do your own, but I'll tell you what mine is if it helps you on the path. I always looked at something like a big timber. You know, like in Thailand, when they have those big bells that hang down and those big timbers, and they're just solid, they're just big. That feels like support. Now, I'm a plus size person. Can I tell you this? So support means a lot to us. Sometimes when I go to a restaurant, I'll look at a chair and I'll go, oh, hell no, that ain't happening. There I am swearing again. What is up with that? But I'll look at a chair and I'll say, no, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. And I'll look at it, the spindly little chair, and I'll think that won't support me. And so these big timbers, I see myself almost in the air, sitting in the middle of this timber in between a crevasse. And I know that timber will hold me. It's a feeling that I have. Can you imagine yourself 50 feet above the air, sitting in the middle of a crevasse on a thick timber and trusting it? That's my feeling of support. And so sometimes when I feel like I'm on thin ice, 10 feet above the ground, I will say, I don't like that feeling. I feel like I'm going to break through the ice at any moment. That doesn't feel supportive to me. I will say, but what would happen if I brought that timber in? And you know where I feel it? Right at my pubic bone. I'm just going to tell you, I feel it right in the center of me sitting down. I feel it. I can stand up and feel it. But that energy center, I can get that working for me. And I'll say, man, I don't feel supported. I can't look for outside influences. I've got to come within myself to attract from a point of support. That energy center of support gives me courage. It grounds me. It lets me know my idea is solid. It lets me build a belief within myself. I can't get it from outside sources. You know what? You met Matt. He's pretty lovely. Can I just tell you? We've been married for 33 years. He's very lovely. But I found I can't rely on his support all the time. I have ideas of my own. Some of you have met Paula. She's pretty wonderful, right? I love Paula, but I can't rely on Paula for my support. I have to find that within myself. Do you know the energy? Can you feel the energy center of support within you? Of courage? Do you have a picture within you? You have a worksheet that I would love for you to do that this evening, is to go through and create these energy centers and pictures that you may have for yourself. The next energy center I want to talk about is your strength. You know, that big Tibetan log or, big support beam? I imagine those big bells, those big, gong things underneath. And I imagine myself in the center of one of those, just ringing it and sending it out. I think of that as strength. Vibrationally sending it out. I'm strong. That sound is so big. Have you ever been in a vibrational place where there's a big gong going on and it reverberates? My dad loved race cars. He loved them. And he had a pickup that he created, a 1967 pickup that he had put in the engine, 750 horsepowers. When you turn it on, your whole body vibrates. If you're in a garage and he would turn it on, it would be, and your whole body would just shake. That's the feeling that I have of strength. When I think about it, the rumble in your belly. And I think about that. Whenever I am feeling afraid, I come to a point of strength and I say, nope, I'm going there. I think about the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. I just turn that on in my system. There was one time when I have a fear of horses. I'm going to tell you some of the fears of horses. I have a fear of horses. When I was younger, a horse stepped on my foot. So they're unpredictable, and one nipped at me as well. And so I've always, since a little girl, I've been a little bit terrified of horses. And one of my dear friends wanted to take me to an equine therapy. And I was like, with horses? no. And she said, yes. And so I said, okay. And I said, I'm afraid of horses. She goes, look, this lady, she has older horses. They're trained horses. It's going to be really good. And so I said, okay, I'll go. And wouldn't you know, there was probably 20, 25 people, and she wanted 5 people to come up, and she wanted to demonstrate something about horses. And so, I'm there, 25, people, and she points at me and calls me up. And I was like, no, I'm afraid of horses. And she says, no, come on up. Oh, I couldn't believe out of all of those people, she chose me. And I went up there with the other 4 people, and she had us in the middle of the arena, and there were 4 horses around. That's what it was, 4 horses. And she said, I want you to intuitively pick a horse. Don't tell each other what you're doing. But I want you to Anyhow, she said, I want you to intuitively pick the horse. So I chose the horse that I wanted. And she said, I want you to walk up to that horse. But I want you to watch the body language of the horse. Now, my mind turned off as soon as she said, walk up to the horse. I hijacked my brain and stopped listening. Do you ever do that? When you're challenged about something, I was already at a high stake of hijack. And so she said, and I want you to walk to the horse. I heard her say that. And I thought, I ain't going to be afraid of this. I put my big girl panties on, and I was going to do it. And so you know what I did? I put my hands in my pocket. I put my square shoulder, and I started walking to that horse. I was not going to let this fear get the best of me. And she said, whoa, Angie. So she said, stop. And I stopped, and she says, what do you notice about the horse? Who cares about the horse? Who cares about the horse? How am I feeling? And she said, I want you to look at the horse and tell me what you notice. Well, the horse's ears were all the way back. Like, I don't know how you do it. It was all the way back. And its neck was straight up. And she said, walk backward until that isn't there. I had to walk all the way back to my starting point. And so I relaxed as she was talking. She was working with other people, and I was relaxed, and I was thinking, why did the horse have so much resistance towards me? Pretty soon, the horse started pawing at the ground, and I felt it saying, come hither. So I took a couple of steps, and then I waited, and it would paw at the ground some more. And so I worked my way all the way there till I was standing next to the horse. Is that not wild? And the horse had its head down and everything. Horses respond to energy. And sometimes the energy that we're displaying, that we're sending out, we don't realize we are magnificent creators of sending energy out. And so when I think about my ability to support myself and have courage, and then I think of the strength that it takes for me to do it, I ask myself, am I doing it out of fear or love? When I do it out of fear, I force. When I do it out of love, I'm attracted. And do you know the difference between that idea? I want to go back to the word support because I wanted to give you a color to go with it. Now, this is really funny because I have to tell you, my least favorite color is red. Can I tell you that? But that's the color of support. Sometimes the very thing I resist is the very thing that I need. Maybe not what I want, but what I need. And there is a difference between want and need. I want to have strength, but I need something beyond what I know of myself now. So the color red is what I think of when I think of support, is red. Interestingly enough, the red chakra is your base chakra. Isn't that interesting? Now, there's some that I use and some I don't, but I can tell you strength, you will either have sunshine or chicken belly. but it's just yellow. How do I want to use it? Do I want to use red for love or fear? Both exist. How do I want to use it? So these energy centers, I begin to realize I am fearful of this, but what would happen if I could love it? And that's where I come to the point of support. When I come to the point of strength, I ask myself, am I doing it with fear or am I doing it with sunshine and love? It's just what I do. I feel it in my belly and my abdomen. That's where I feel it. That's where I feel it. And so whenever I'm going to do something, have the courage to do something different, I go through my energy centers and I feel supported. I go through how I feel about my strength. And then the next one that I go to is my heart. And I have to remember in my heart if I'm doing it out of ego or if I'm doing it out of love. Am I doing it so I'll feel good about myself, or am I doing it because I want to send love out to others? It's interesting how in this chakra is green. I got some help with this when I did study chakras, because it wasn't green for me before, but I've moved it there. I moved it there because of the idea of money. When I began to understand my ability to exchange energy when I began to understand money is nothing but an exchange of energy, then I really saw it as green. And I really found that the love is not really red like I thought. It really is green. And it changed for me in that moment. Isn't that interesting? So when I think about my heart, I think about the exchange of energy. And I ask myself if I'm doing it from ego or am I doing it from service to another or service to myself? Not out of ego, but out of support and help. Then we go up to my neck. So this is a big energy source. I have to check in with the energy source of my heart. I have to check in with that. So I make it pretty simple. Can you see? It's really simple. I don't really understand the in-depth philosophy of it all, but I will tell you, if you can grow them on your own, intuitively on your own, you'll find you're already using them. You don't have to go study a new philosophy. You just got to recognize what you're already doing. And you know the difference between when I do it for love or when I do it because I'm doing it out of ego. You'll know the difference. The next one is communication, my ability to communicate or translate my thought to other people, where now I'm going to engage in inviting people to join me in my idea, my transmuted idea. How well do I communicate that energetically? It's not necessarily words. Let me just tell you, I say dumb stuff all the time. All the time I say dumb stuff. But people feel the energy of what I'm saying more than they hear the word that I'm saying. I have a lot of grace in my life, and I'm given lots of grace. And I find it comes from this energy source of how am I using my ability to communicate? You know, when I first started to become a consultant, it was a consultant. I worked for Bob Proctor and his organization for several years. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made. Learned to love myself and learned to understand how to move energy by understanding myself better. And when I first started working with him, I had this big grandiose idea that I wanted to do what I'm doing right now. But at the time, I had no idea how I was going to do it, none whatsoever. So if you're sitting in this place of I have no idea, you're in the best place. You're in the best place right now. But I can tell you, as I started to communicate my idea, do you know what happened? I lost my voice for 6 weeks. Can I tell you, as a singer, never in my whole life had I lost my ability. I'd never gotten laryngitis, never got sick like that, never lost my voice, never. And in that moment, I had really stopped speaking my truth. And for the first time, I started speaking my truth. and this closed down. It let me know this muscle, I'm weak in this muscle of communication. To speak and be seen was terrifying for me. And it manifested in a physical form. So it was a spiritual idea that my intellect hadn't wrapped its head around, and I was practicing it. And in my body was telling me, no, you don't speak. You've been taught, don't speak, don't do it. I grew up in the church where women don't teach, they don't speak, they don't do that. My spiritual gift, I knew until I was in college, was potato salad. How to make potato salad. That was my spiritual gift. That's all I thought I was worthy of doing, or teaching Sunday school for children. And I had a desire to one day do something so much greater. But I was taught in this community, that is not possible for you. And I took that in every environment I went into, every environment. And I had to learn to not do that. I almost cry when I think of it. This one was a biggie. To speak your truth. And I'm doing what I love. And I will speak it. And I don't care. That color for me is blue. Blue is my favorite color, and I wouldn't bring it out. I wouldn't bring it out, even though it's my favorite color. And I love living by the water, and I love the color of water, and I love it all. Water is fluid. It represents so much. So when you think of water, or when you think of blue, what do you think of? I think of an element of water flowing. I want my communication to be flowing. Sorry, if it comes out, I let it out. That makes you uncomfortable, yay. It's probably something in you that wants to communicate as well, so I'm not going to apologize. Still not great at it all the time. Good grief. Let's get over it. Go to that energy center. So the next one that I want to talk about is this place where I can tap into wisdom. I can tap into this energy center of wisdom. And you know what I started learning? I used to think it was my intellect, but what I realized is that they call it the third eye, this wisdom that you have. And I started seeing pictures of the third eye. I never could study that stuff when I was growing up. So when I started sort of hearing the philosophy, I thought, yeah, this is where wisdom shows up for me. When I can ask, I would have conversations with God, and I would ask, and really I began to understand my idea of God was really limited to what I thought the church told me what God was. And there was a period of time I had to put that on a shelf and say, I'm not sure what I know about this. I don't even know if you can call it an entity or a being. I call it infinite intelligence. That there is this infinite intelligence that I can tap into, and it's my God-given right to do that, and I can do it. And all wisdom is there for me. It's not given to some people. It's there for me. It's a gift. It's your God-given right to tap into it. And it's for all of us. Do you know, I remember the first time Bob said, we can all look up at the sun, right? We all look up at the sun. Guess what? We're not seeing different suns. We're seeing the same sun. It doesn't matter if you're in England or Africa or, Ireland or California or Wisconsin. It doesn't matter. We all see the same sun. There is only one mind. And we all tap into this one mind. There is not a whole bunch of minds. There's only one mind, and we attune ourselves to that mind. We can attune to it. This is a spiritual practice of learning that you're not alone, that there is this mind, there is this wisdom, there is this intelligence that you can tap into. And it is a belief for you to be able to know everything that's here exists. I can give you any one topic and everyone would have a different answer from here to there. They all exist in our world. Just which one works for you right now? That wisdom is available to you, not because somebody said it, it's because you attune yourself to it. I see this as pure white. I don't know if that's the right one in the chakras, but I will tell you, I see my wisdom as true white. And when I step into it and I release everything, do you know what white is? All colors, right? So it's all knowledge. It's all everything. So when I step into that and I ask, what can I do towards this idea? Wisdom always shows up for me. And I tune into that energy center. It doesn't come from outside. It comes from my ability to connect in. The last energy center I want to talk about is, I guess they call it the crown chakra. It is your openness, your ability to be open. And I can tell you, when I first started, and I'll tell you my first goal where I started practicing all of this. I heard this idea of turning your annual income into a monthly income. It's not what I'm here to talk about. But what I did is that I allowed myself to be open to the idea. And I started embracing it, and I started putting it in all of my energy centers. And do you know what happened? Is I began to live in a vibration that I felt I was riding an elevator all the time. I thought I had an inner ear infection, to be honest. And I couldn't figure it out. It was like I was woozy all the time. And I remember when it came on, I was at an event. And when it came on, I was in a lot of fear and a lot of wisdom all at the same time, a lot of strength and a lot of love and it was just all over the place. I was all over the place. And I remember embracing the new idea and fearful of it at the same time. And what was happening is contrast was showing up. And I finally said to somebody, I think something's wrong. I talked to one of the people that had a lot of experience, and I said, I feel like I'm ill. I feel like I'm riding up and down on an elevator. And she said, that's your paradigm. And I said, no, you don't understand. It's a physical feeling that I'm feeling. And she said, you're living in two different vibrations. You're learning to go to the one and you're still holding on to the other. And you're doing this. The contrast was showing up. And it was having a physical effect on my body. And this is where I learned, somebody said to me, your crown chakra is open. And it's uncomfortable. And I was like, what? What is that about? But when they explained it to me, I was like, that is exactly what's happening. Do you know what? For me, this crown chakra, this idea of openness, this energy center of openness is a healing energy of purple for me. Can I just tell you? I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you how I feel. It's like somebody put a warm blanket, or put a blanket in the dryer and heated it up, and has put it around me. And it's this openness to allow myself to relax. How many of you open yourself to new ideas and the feeling of openness? Could openness be like when you relax with a warm blanket around you? Or, when you get into a hot tub and you just go, that's the healing of purple for me. That's the lavender. That's my crown chakra saying, I'm ready to receive. Now, I can tell you, as I've manifested, these are energy centers that I use to attract what I need toward the idea. We're talking about it very dramatically today, just so I can give you pictures, but I use them in the stillness of myself every day. One, I believe that it is my God-given right to experience anything I want to experience and have anything I want to have. And I know that it is within myself to be able to receive it. Is it possible you can create and become, not create, they're already given to you. Listen, you didn't have to do anything to deserve any of these. They're already given to you. Do you know you can tap into them? Can I tell you, this is the secret. This is the information that so many are afraid to talk about or to speak about. Because it sounds crazy, right? Because we're going through a technology right now where we're going into new dimensions of ourselves. We're leaving the physicality of the 3D world. And I don't want to talk about, things to make people uncomfortable, but you've got to recognize we're going through a massive change right now as a world. And you can either be on the fear side of it, or you can learn to embrace yourself. Because all things exist in the universe. Just what would you love to create, and what would you love to see? Now I'm going to tell you something. I usually give myself 2 hours to do this event. I'm done for the day. If you've blocked the 2 hours off, I didn't know if I was going to take an hour and a half or 2 hours. I didn't know, but I blocked 2. But I feel the need to let you have this time for yourself, to be able to, don't get up and walk away from your desk. Don't get up and start looking at your phone. Don't start talking to your neighbor. Don't start messaging people. Don't do that. Stay in this for yourself and build a picture for yourself. Now, I will hold this space open and play music. I don't mind doing that. I would love for you to take the homework and say what image best suits. That's what it has in the homework. I just want to show you the homework really quickly if you haven't gotten it, but I gave you the space to do it, to come in here and say, we create in pictures and images. To shine brightly, you got to figure out, what does this look like for you? Love you. Give yourself the moment to say, what does support feel like for me? What color is it? What image can I use to in the moment, can I go to this moment of knowing what support feels like for me? What does strength feel like for me? What does heart? What is communication? What is wisdom? What is openness? The second part of it is, the homework is, in what areas of my life could I tap into using my support energy center? Once you've defined it for yourself, I want you to look at, towards your goal, or your idea, or what you want to create in the world. How could I tap in more to my center of support? How could I stop and be still and feel the feeling of, it's going to be okay? I have it within me. I'm not lacking. It's all within me. Now I'm going to tell you, there's a difference between knowing it and spiritually practicing it. I really want you to know the difference between knowing it and feeling it. I've made a significant amount of money helping people understand this for themselves. And I'm sort of past the part of understanding. I want to help people live it. I want to create a community of people spiritually practicing it. I don't care what your picture is. Your picture doesn't matter to me. I have my own. I want you to develop your own. If I can lend you my own for a time until you do your own, great. But I'm not here to give you information about my energy centers. I'm here to help you find your own and begin to practice them for your own, to manifest anything you want, because it's your God-given right to have that experience. Some of the experiences we've done are through energies that other people say you have to experience it this way. No, you don't. Sorry, if you use your hands with my stuff, I get little things that pop up. So sorry about that. I'll do a fun one though. How about that? I'll do a fun one. If I hold my fingers up, I think I get balloons or something. Maybe not. Anyway, I have to do this now to see. There we go. If I hold one in one, I get balloons, I think. Balloons aren't showing up today, but the confetti did. Anyway, doesn't matter. But if the idea shows up for you of creating and learning about yourself, that's what this whole event is about. This event is for you to learn to shine brightly. It's about you to learn how to create and manifest for yourself, to bring things plain into the world for you. It's your God-given right to do it. But you're going to have to come to a moment where you meet yourself and you explore and ask your questions of self. And this is the best way I know how to do it today. So tomorrow we're gonna go over a few more things, and we might go through. We are going to go through a meditation that I can help you with as well. But it never comes from the outside. It's always about us. We are energy centers. And I think we're at the point right now where we're starting to believe it, that we live in frequencies and vibrations. I think we're past the idea of, I think we all know that everything is vibrating all the time. We're energy beings. We read energy all the time. I don't know, for some of you, it might seem new. If it is, and you want to talk to somebody, you know what? Put in the chat. I think we have a thing where you can reach out to us. And if you want to call before tomorrow to just express or talk about it or ask questions about it, book a call with us. Because we're here to serve. Like, I'm not playing small this year. I am not. I'm going to do the uncomfortable things because I really do want to help people get where they want to go. I really do. But it is a study of you. It's not a study of more information. I can just tell you, I know I gave you a place to start, but it's really the study of you. Take this. Don't just take what I said and go, oh, ain't that nice, and walk away. Spend the last 30 minutes. Give yourself the gift of 30 minutes. Do not betray your potential right here. Do not betray it. Stay in it and go through what your energy centers look like. Give yourself that moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the space open. I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to hold the space. But I just want to encourage you to come back tomorrow. Give yourself this gift. Finish it all the way through. Go through it all the way. And give yourself the moment to have the experience, to shine brightly, to learn how to do that for you. Because I don't know about you, but we're here to help transition the world. And the only way to do it is to really understand yourself. No one's going to do it for you. No mommy and daddy is going to show up and fix this for you. You have to do it. And if I can help you do that for you to fall in love with you, then I'm going to do it. I want to help you because I want to help myself.